So welcome everybody, so lovely to see you all. Today's class is called Gentle Low Back Pain and Pelvis Release, and I want you to remember that as we practice. When we do the movements, please be gentle with yourself, particularly if you've not practiced for a while and you think you need to go gung-ho to really make a difference. Don't, but back off and keep it really gentle. So we're going to start in standing. And I want you to just close your eyes for a moment, get a sense of yourself on your feet. And if you haven't practiced for a while, just notice if your pattern is exaggerated. You might have a pattern that is always there. Is it exaggerated? And if you have been practicing, managed to get some practice in, is that pattern still there? And maybe that's just telling you that you do need to give yourself that time. Okay, so just get a sense of how easy it feels to stand. Notice if you've got any tension, discomfort or pain, particularly in your lower back or in your pelvis. And then I'm going to invite you to open your eyes. And if it's okay for your shoulders and your wrists and your hands, bring your hands into your lower back. And either side of your spine. And you can move out to the sides, feel the lower ribs, to the base of the pelvis. Sorry, to the rim of the back of the pelvis. Just have a feel with your fingers if you can. And one side feel tighter than the other. And then bring your hands around to the front of your pelvis. So you have your hands are resting on your hip crests. And just get a sense if you feel like you're rotating. I'm exaggerating this, but just sense if there's a little rotation one way or the other. And sometimes we can actually have a hip that feels like it's dropped down. So can you get a sense if you're, without you actually physically doing that, but can you get a sense if your pelvis is out of alignment? And then keeping your knees going forwards and your hands on your hip crest, I want you to just gently bend one knee. And it bends, keeping the heel on the floor as well. And stay with that same knee and just feel what happens to that hip crest. Can you feel how it sort of drops forwards and down? Do that a few times. And then go with the other knee. So that knee travels forwards, it tracks forwards but slightly down. And feel how that hip crest responds. And explore that a few times. I'm just going to come in and see. Does one move slightly differently compared to the other? Make sure the heels stay down. So it's not this movement. It's not a twisting movement. It's a forwards and down movement with the pelvis. And I want you to start to alternate that. Like you're walking on the spot. Notice if your body's trying to do this. Just notice that. There is a slight hip hike, but not a hip bump. I don't know what else to call that. And can you feel how you've got the hip that goes forwards? Just pause at the top of this. You've got the hip that goes forwards and down, but the other side rolls slightly back. And change that direction and feel how one hip goes forwards and one hip goes back. So our pelvis actually, don't force this, can go, each side of our pelvis can gently oscillate in opposition to each other. So just try that a few more times. Notice if one side is less reluctant to move, and don't force anything if you feel that. And as you continue walking on the spot like this, feet stay connected to the floor. Bring your hands to the back of your pelvis again. So your hands get close to the sacrum. And each side of the pelvis is moving in opposition to each other and on the sacrum. So be gentle with yourself. And just notice if you feel any stiffness through the back of the pelvis. The knee that's going forward, that side of your back needs to let go and lengthen. So just notice if you can feel that. Okay, now let that go. Could you all feel maybe one side was tighter than the other? Did it feel pretty free? All right, so lie yourselves down. We're going to explore that movement later on. Lie yourselves down. Make sure I can see as much of you as possible. Leslie B, can you be a bit more side on than that? I think you've changed your setup a bit. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, great. Okay, so just give yourself a moment to settle onto the floor. And as you immediately come to the floor, just feel the way that you're making contact with the floor. And feel that contact that you're making, and feel the parts of your body that are not in contact with the floor. Tune into your breathing. And with each inhale, just feel the parts of you that lift a bit further off the floor. And as you breathe out, feel if you land heavier on the floor. As you breathe in, notice that there'll be parts of you that lift away from the floor, and there's parts of you that will press more into the floor. And as you breathe out, areas of you will release heavier into the floor. If you need to slow down your breathing and deepen your breathing to feel this more clearly, then do that. And let your awareness, staying with your breath, let your awareness move into your lower back. And as you breathe in, can you feel your lower back lift away from the floor? And as you breathe out, can you sense the lower back lower towards the floor? And does that feel different on one side of your back compared to the other? All right. Now, let go of focusing on your breath and your lower back and bring your awareness to your pelvis and just feel where you're weighted through your pelvis. Now that you've been on the floor for a while, do you feel as if you're heavier through one side? Is there more weight towards your tailbone or onto the sacrum? So just notice where you're starting out from. And then let your awareness move up to your head and just gently roll your head from side to side. Get a sense of how that feels. And as you do this, let your brain multitask and feel how your pelvis is responding. Is it responding in any way? Is that the subtlest movement of your pelvis? Is it going the same way as your head? Is it rolling a little bit the same way as your head or the opposite way to your head? Or is there a disconnect there? And then bring your head to stillness. And just feel how the rest of you has come to settle on the floor. So just get a sense of your shoulders, your arms, hands, how far away your legs are from each other. And then bring your knees up. Have your feet on the floor. Just check that your feet are level. And then make them a comfortable distance apart. And keeping your knees upright. That's it. Pop any support underneath your head that you feel you need. Keeping your knees upright, just gently roll across the back of your pelvis. So the knees aren't going to drop from side to side. It's a much smaller movement than that. There'll be a little bit of movement to the knees, but you're not twisting. And as you roll across the back of your pelvis, just get a sense of the shape of your pelvis. Any knobbly bits that feel like they stick out into the mat. Any tender spots. Feel like you're rolling across your pelvis like a barrel rolling. And notice as you roll your pelvis, do you feel any connection to your head? Does your head move a little? Does it move the same way as your pelvis? The opposite way to your pelvis, or not at all? Okay, and then just come to rest for a moment. And sensing the sacrum, so that flat part in the back of your pelvis, can you just start to circle around there? So it's a small circle, even though the sacrum isn't circular. But can you circle around that? So we're not pandiculating yet, but just exploring the sensations through the back of our pelvis. Connecting that movement to our head. Can you make that circle so small that you feel like you're focusing right onto the center of the sacrum? Sense how much your torso participates in the movement. And then try going the opposite way. And then let yourself come to rest. And for a moment, let your right leg slide long. And your left leg slide long. And just take in if anything feels different. Does your pelvis feel a little bit more weighted? And then, Somas, bring your feet up again. Each time checking that they're level, hips width. And we're going to create a soft arch. And I'd like you, if you're able, to bring your right hand or one hand onto your navel and one hand onto your pubic bone. Low down, as if your hand's going to disappear between your legs. And we're going to create a soft arch between these 2 points. And just feel the distance between your hands. And when you inhale, create more space between your hands with a soft arch just between these 2 points, navel and the base of your pubic bone. So it's just a soft arch there. And then gently release that. And notice with your hands on your belly, notice if your belly tightens to release the arch. Can you keep the belly quiet so that your brain can just feel the back muscles lengthening? And then let's connect your hands closer together in a flatten. So next time you breathe out, by moving your pelvis, can you move your hands closer together? As the back flattens to the floor, let the back go, let it release and lengthen. And just feel the lower abdominal muscles up to the navel engaging, tightening. And then can you smooth that tension out? So your hands will move just a little bit away from each other again. And let's take that into an arch. Create space between your 2 hands. And of course, you can let your head come along for the ride as well. But we're not over efforting here. We're keeping it soft. We're not pushing through the ribs. And then Keeping the belly soft, relax the back. The head gently release. And then how could you shorten that space between your hands? How would you move your body? Notice if you're really pushing through your feet, can that effort come from the center? And let your head roll back as well. So the chin's lifting up to the ceiling, tipping the head back as if somebody's walked into the room behind you and you're talking to them or looking at them from behind. And then slowly let that go. Again, as you release out, notice if your back is trying to do the work. What would you need to do to not let that happen? So let's try that soft arch again. Create space between navel and pubic bone. Be soft here. Soft and spacious through the front. Tense in the back, chin gently rolling down. And then releasing that, keeping the belly quiet. Just pause in neutral, pause in neutral. And then when you're ready, you're going to take that into a flatten. So the back lengthens towards the floor. Can you let the back go as the front tightens? And release. Just for a moment, release your hands. And now can you bring your right hand onto your navel again and your left hand onto your left hip crest. And we're going to balance out the pelvis and we're going to create an off-centered arch. Making it soft and subtle again from the navel to the left hip. So as you breathe in, can you create space between your navel and left hip? So you'll arch and put a little bit more weight down into that left side of your pelvis. But be as soft as you can here. Don't over effort here. Feel the tension in your back and then let that go. Notice how your hands move towards each other. Let your back release. And then when you're ready to next breathe out, how could you bring your hands closer together through movement between these 2 points? You might feel that the left hip lifts a little bit more and the weight's a bit heavier through the right side of your pelvis. And then can you smooth that tension out without using your back? Be very gentle with yourself. And then create that off-centered arch. Breathe into the top of that. Just feel the weight's off-centered on the pelvis. And then slowly release. And then shorten the space between your hands as you flatten. Imagine a diagonal line from navel to hip crest. Shorten that. And then release. And then one more time with the arch. Soft inhale. And release. When you feel your back's released, then take that into that off-centered flatten. Move your hands closer together through movement. And when you release out, gently lay this left side of your back and pelvis to the floor. And then release your hands. Let your right leg slide long and your left leg slide long. And give yourself a moment to integrate what you've done so far. Notice if there's a different sensation to the left side of your pelvis, back, and belly. Comparing that to the right. And then bringing your knees up again. And let's explore that to the right. So left hand on the navel, right hand on your right hip crest. And with your next inhale, just notice how your brain organizes this movement. Create a diagonal movement down to that right side of your pelvis. And just feel, does that space open up differently on this side? And then let that go. Take a flatten. So imagine a diagonal line from the right hip crest to the navel. This right side of your pelvis rolls off the floor. And then be very gentle and move with awareness as you release out. Okay, and then explore this twice more on your own. Notice if you're over-efforting. Can you be gentle? Can you pause between each movement? Each repetition. And just so I know where you're all at, when you finish that repetition, let your arms release. Let your legs slide long. And give yourself a moment to integrate what you've done so far. Okay. So if you bring your feet back to the floor, checking that they're level. Comfortable width apart. And let's explore a different way of moving the pelvis. Can you gently press into your right foot and reach your right knee forwards? So that you start to feel as the right knee goes forwards that you you lift off a little bit on that right side of your pelvis and then release there. And then just let the weight of your pelvis go. And explore that repetition next time by moving the knee forwards. You're going to go straight ahead. The right knee is going to go straight ahead. And there's a little bit of pressure in the foot when you do that. And the pelvis starts to lift. And gently roll and release. Be gentle. And notice when you release out, do you release out with a bit of a thud? Or can you control it right to the end? Now connecting your pelvis to your foot and your knee. So there's sort of equal effort through that movement. And feel at the top of that your back is lengthening. And the more that you try and reach forwards, your back might start to tighten actually. So keep it soft. And release. Let the weight of your pelvis go. And try that one more time. Equal effort. Softness. Does this side of your pelvis feel heavy to lift? And release. Okay, and then just let the right leg slide long, nice and slow. Sliding that left foot on the floor to release the left leg. And just sensing if that right side of your pelvis feels a bit heavier on the floor. More spacious. Maybe even your right leg feels a little longer. Let's repeat that on the left side. So drawing your knees up. Just check that your feet are level. And gentle pressure through your left foot to reach the left knee straight ahead. And as the knee reaches, that left side of your pelvis will begin to lift. And then release. And feel how the pelvis rolls. Once you've landed, just pause and feel the weight of your pelvis again. Let go of any effort. And then do that again. Can you balance out that effort? Feel the pelvis will roll to the right. Land and rest. Try reaching the knee forwards. And how soon does the pelvis start to lift and roll? And again, be gentle. We want the back to lengthen. It's a very gentle lifting. Maybe just feeling that you're going to get a piece of paper underneath the pelvis. Or a newspaper. It's not a high lift. It's not a big lift. It's very subtle. And now begin to alternate this pattern. And sensing that your knees are going forwards and backwards. Like pistons. Not dropping out side to side. So you'll stay more or less planted on the soles of your feet. Be gentle. Can you breathe easy as you do this? Notice if there is movement through your head. Can you let the weight of your head go so your head moves along? And does your head go the same way as your pelvis? Or the opposite way to the reaching knee? Just watch the knees aren't dropping out. As one knee reaches forwards, the other knee pulls back towards your body. And then let yourself come to stillness. And bring your hands to your hip crests. And we're going to create that movement again, but in a much more subtle way. So begin the movement again, alternating. Be very gentle with yourself as we progress to this. It's almost like we do less, but we feel more movement, opposite movement with the pelvis. Notice how the reaching forwards knee, that side of your pelvis rolls subtly forwards. And the knee that pulls back towards your body, that side of your pelvis rolls backwards. The reaching forwards knee, that side of your pelvis rolls forwards. The knee that's pulling back into your body, that side of your pelvis rolls backwards. And just watch that your knees are not dropping out. Now, can you accentuate or focus on that rolling one side of your pelvis forwards and one side of your pelvis back? And that's what drives the knees. But I want you to go slower and be more gentle. If something feels stuck, please don't force the movement. Go slower and be more gentle. Even make the movement smaller. And in your mind's eye, just imagining what is happening in your pelvis here. Now the pelvis is moving differently on each side of the sacrum and pubic bone. And then let yourself come to stillness. Let your arms rest. And let your legs slide long. And notice how that feels. We're going to add another element to this movement. So if you bring your feet back up, let your arms be away from your sides. Just rest them comfortably away. And begin to create that gentle reaching forwards with the knees, that gentle opposite movement through the pelvis. And it's almost like you're walking on the spot. And as you do this, just feel how your shoulders are responding. So this is one of the walking patterns. And the walking pattern is that whichever leg is swinging forwards, the opposite arm would be swinging forwards as well. So can you sense, and you might just need to slow down a little bit more, can you sense with the reaching forwards knee, have the opposite shoulder lifts a little bit? The reaching forwards knee with the slightly lifted hip, the opposite shoulder lifts. One knee moves away from your body, the other knee moves towards the body. The knee that's moving in towards the body, can you feel if the opposite shoulder presses a little bit more into the floor? The knee moving in towards the body, can you feel if the opposite shoulder presses more into the floor? And can you begin to exaggerate that pattern? So the reaching forwards knee, can you let that opposite shoulder lift? Keep alternating. The reaching forwards knee, can you let the opposite shoulder lift? Lift up to the ceiling. You can connect that down into the arm and hand. And the opposite, the knee that pulls into the body, can you let that shoulder move towards the floor? So it's a little bit like a softer wash rag. And is your head staying still, or can you let your head move? You might find if you just let your head go, it goes towards the shoulder that's moving back. So just watch you not reaching down with the arm, You've got the shoulder either lifting up or back. Like you're walking, like there's that rotation in the upper body. And then just come to stillness. And let your legs slide long. Just rest out. Give yourself just some quiet time. All right, Somas. Bring your feet up again. This time wider than mat width. If you're on a mat, that is. Let's check that you've got space for your knees. So can you allow your right knee to release down and in towards your left foot? Keeping that left knee upright. And if you knock knees, you take your feet wider apart. And then lift the right knee and just check that movement on the left side. And as you check the movement on the left side, just notice how that feels. With the right knee staying upright. And then come back up. Okay, so we're going to focus on the right side. And as we do so, I'd like you to keep your left foot on the floor and your left knee upright. So keeping that left side still. And I'd like you to just be very gentle with yourself again and allow that right knee to release down towards the left foot, keeping the left knee still. And just notice how that feels. And then bring the right knee back up. Just check actually, if your feet are too far away from your bum, it's going to keep your back arched. So try stepping your feet closer into your bum if your knee's happy, not towards each other, towards your bum, that's it. And Val, can you try that? It could be the camera angle. Closer into your bum, but still keep them wide. And then try that again with the right side. Remember, left knee stays still. And notice what the right foot is doing. Is it moving with the knee? And then come back up. Nice and slow. Nice and slow. So you feel what you're doing. And I want you to get a sense when you do this again, you're connecting the movement from your foot to the right side of your pelvis. And the foot will roll in because the right side of your pelvis is going to roll in. So give that a go. So it's not like you're moving at the ankle. You're moving because the pelvis and the knee is moving. And then roll the pelvis back along the floor to bring you up. Just land your pelvis again. And try that one more time. We don't want to force the knee down. But does the foot move last? Can everything move together as one? And when you release out, you're not going to release out by moving at the ankle. Just let the foot follow in response to the pelvis rolling back to the floor. Now bring your right arm closer to your side. And let's add a hip hike in. So can you hike the right hip up towards your armpit, shortening the waist, closing that gap between pelvis and ribs. And at the top of that movement, notice if your back has arched. Can you let the back go? Gently reach down with your arm. So you create that tension all the way down into the waist, up to the armpit. And then begin to release from the armpit through to the hip. And then let the pelvis roll as the knee goes in and down. Connect that to the foot and feel how as the knee goes down, it's adding length to the waist and back. No strain. And feel that the back can let go. Can it be soft? If you're trying to take that knee further down than your back is able to, you might find that your ribs lift, your back arches. And then roll the pelvis back up. And then let's hike the hip again. Let the arm slide down. Let the back go. And keep your head to the right. Keep your head to the right. And then begin to let that right knee release in and down. Be very gentle with yourself. Don't hurt yourself. You might feel that your movement is limited until you let the waist release. So we're still doing that same walking movement. That right knee is releasing down and in towards the foot. And then when you let the waist go and the ribs go, you'll feel that frees up your movement. Left knee staying still, left knee staying upright. And then roll the pelvis back along the floor. And if you've got space, can you let your right arm slide it away from your side? Maybe to a T shape, maybe a bit higher if you've got the space, if your shoulder allows it to. Slightly on the diagonal. And then take a hip hike again. And using the muscles through the ribs, can you shorten through from the armpit down? And the arm will pull into the body. And then from the armpit, release down through the waist. And then continue to lengthen the waist by allowing the right knee to release in and down. Let your head roll to the right as we create that spiral of walking. Left knee and foot stay upright. Just feel that space and length through the right side. Right side of your pelvis rolling off the floor. And then roll the pelvis back along the floor. Bring the arm along your side and slide your right leg long. And your left leg long. Just a brief moment so that you can register the difference in sensation. And then bring your feet up again. Separate your feet so they're wide enough so that the left knee has got space to move down and in. Sit. And just notice how that feels on this side. And give that a go. As you explore this a few times, give yourself a moment between each repetition. So that you can be conscious of the next repetition of really feeling that connection from pelvis all the way to foot. And you're moving gently, you're not forcing anything. Has your brain gone offline and you're allowing that right knee to drop out? Next time that you roll your pelvis back along the floor and the left knee is upright, bring the left arm closer to your side. And let's take a hip hike. Shorten the left waist. Reach down with the arm. Let the head roll to the left. And just feel that tension at the top of that. Is there anything to let go of in your back? And then can you create that space from armpit to waist as you release out? And let the left knee roll in, pelvis rolls, connecting that to the foot. Right knee stays up. Right foot stays on the floor. And just breathe into that space and length. Be gentle with yourself and roll the pelvis back along the floor. Exploring that again. Hike the hip. Reach down. As you reach down and hike the hip, your head starts to tilt. You might feel more tension in that left side of your jaw. Now let's hold this here and be curious as you try to let that left knee release down and in. You might feel that it's tethered. Just watch that right knee. You might feel that it's tethered. Now then let the waist go and feel how that frees the knee to move. It frees the pelvis to move. Feel space from the knee to the armpit. And then roll the pelvis back up. No strain. And then let the left arm reach out onto the diagonal or shoulder level, whatever feels most comfortable for you. And hike the hip again. Draw the armpit down to the waist. And just let the back soften. And then create that space from armpit to knee as the pelvis releases down and in. Letting the waist go. Let the pelvis roll. The foot. The right knee staying still. Let your head roll to the left. So you just create that spiral. And then roll the pelvis back up. Head to center. Release your left arm. And slide your left leg long, your right leg long. Give yourself a moment to feel. Feel the difference. Remember how you felt at the beginning of the lesson. As you tune into your breathing, can you feel the lower back responding to your breath? Can you feel how the rest of your body responds to your breath? And just let your head gently roll from side to side and notice if there is a clearer connection to your pelvis. And then bring your head back to center. Give yourself just another moment to notice and take in the position of your arms, your legs. And then, Somas, can you find a yawn? Let that yawn express itself all through your body. Take yourself over to one side. And sit yourself up. Notice how you feel there before you stand up. And remember how you felt at the beginning of the lesson. Did you feel in some way that your pelvis was a little bit off center, a little bit off balance? Let your hands rest on your hip crest and just do that walking pattern that we did at the beginning, where you have one knee that bends, goes straight forwards, foot stays on the floor, and then the opposite knee. Again, like you're walking on the spot. Does that feel freer? All right, Somas, great. Thank you so much for coming today. It's good to see you all again. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you all very soon. Namaste. Namaste.